Was this an issue-free election? I mean, did people not talk about something that they were promised the country? And what about the United States? Were we not on the matter for people to discuss our presence there and what they expected from us?
My impression is, Henry, that there was little to none of that. This was a personality-driven election. It was an interest, a local interest-driven election, and there were, aside from whether you had an attitude toward Karzai and his government, it was a local election that was taking place among ambitious people locally who saw value in holding a position in the parliament. Again, this aggregates, to more than that, but in its essence, that's the way I saw it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it seemed like it wasn't based on substance. People didn't have a lot of platforms. There seemed to be an ethnic component which was driving how people voted. And there wasn't a lot of mention, at least that I saw, of what the U.S. should do or the U.S. should get out. I heard that a lot of parliamentarians were running on. Many parliamentarians were making promises that have nothing to do with being a parliamentarian. We'll build this bridge or we'll do this, and it's they can't necessarily do that unless they can get, as I said before, NGO funding or something to do that.
My name is Timot Karimi. I'm a member of Afghan American community in DC, and one of your colleagues alluded to the disenfranchising of Hazaras in Herat, but according to reports from central Afghanistan, it wasn't just Herat. People in Jowli, which is a district in the heavily populated district in Ghazni province, in Waldistan, another district in Ghazni province, and in Bamiyan, Yakhaulan, many districts within the central areas. Whether the polling stations closed way too early, and secondly, there weren't enough, polling, voter, the paper to choose.
There weren't enough ballots.
Ballots, there you go, yeah. And, okay, on the one hand, you understand that in the south, there's 4 or 5 provinces in the south, there's the insurgency ongoing, but provinces and central areas, they're completely peaceful. And it raises question as to, what's going on? Are these orchestrated by people? I mean, Afghanistan is full of conspiracy theories, so.
The Hazaras vote in the largest, that is the largest turnout comes in the Hazara community, because in a way they have the most at stake here. Specifically if the Taliban should return, ethnic cleansing is very much on the agenda. And so they're very concerned. This is a minority community, it's a Shia community by and large. They're racially a little different than the Tajiks and certainly the Pashtuns. But it did make a difference in some provinces. For example, in Hazarajat, in Bamiyan province, whatever happened, there was going to be a full complement of Hazara candidates. But if you take another province like Ghazni, where there is a substantial Hazara population, and so it's a question about who's going to have those seats. If the ballots, each polling station got 600 ballots. Now there was pressure on that, and there was supposed to be an arrangement that if you ran out, they would immediately bring in additional ballots, but instead they closed the stations. So there clearly was some shenanigans here to depress the Hazara vote in those provinces where they might have had a larger representation. Again, in Bamiyan, it wouldn't make a difference because all the candidates were Hazara.
U.S. European Command. You discussed some of the, at the beginning of your remarks, the question of an emerging narrative on legitimacy or how to interpret the election through the media on the outside. Do you have a sense for what an emerging narrative would be for the Afghan voices within the country rather than on the outside?
I don't know entirely. In my sense, from the reporting that I've seen, is there's a lot of what it's hard to know whether it's there seems to be a lot of pessimism that I'm seeing, that it's the warlords that, you know, have gotten the positions of power and they only care about themselves. The ordinary Afghan has no voice. And that's kind of what I'm seeing. But it's too early to tell. And I mean, I guess, as Mike said, on the other hand, I mean, people are trying to go through a process where they're bringing those complaints forward. So it's not like everyone is just resigned to the terrible tragedy of the fraud. There are more than 3,000 complaints to the Electoral Complaints Commission, where people are trying to they're trying to be heard for what's happened. So I think we just have to see. I don't have a good answer about where the narrative is yet.
Any thoughts? Bruce?
I think it's very much the forming narrative. You've got people who have voices who are not too much. You've got the ECC, Election Complaint Commission that's working, sort of.
Well, we'll have to see, right,
Yeah.
how they resolve those complaints.
Sure.
I was fascinated by this question. I mean, I was watching the coverage start to happen while I was there for my wireless card they gave us, and there was the reports that started to come out like in the middle of the night on Friday night were election marred by violence. You know, they had a couple of papers, I think the Times like that, and I didn't. To be honest, you could just as easily have written the story, election, you know, banner held aloft despite 100 scattered terrorist attacks, you know, in a country of 30 million people. I mean, it totally depends on what your baseline is and what and I think that trying to be as dispassionate as I can, I think the facts weigh in on the election succeeds despite narrative, but that the politics are driving an election marker. That's what I think.
And following up on what you said before, Mike, people, depending on what their larger agenda are, will interpret the election to fit their agenda. And those who want to, you know, maybe have investment in defeat here, are certainly going to see this as the last straw. Others will say that, as I suggested, that perhaps this demonstrates a continued desire, because, you know, one of the things that you have is this, and I think Carolyn brought it out, this conflict here. People are not happy with the way in which the international community has comported itself, and certainly in recent years. There's a lot of anger against the fact that people are getting killed, and of course tolerance. When you don't think things are going well, your level of tolerance tends to drop. And at the same time, as Carolyn mentioned, when you ask them, do you want the international forces to leave? They say, oh, no. And unless we address here some of the consequences of what we do, beyond simply the fact that it's not going well, I think there will be a lot.